I am immortal. She is a time traveler. Our paths overlap once in a while, but this time, something was wrong. The first time I saw her, it was 1483. She was standing in a crowded marketplace, wearing a simple dress, her eyes wide as if seeing everything for the first time. She bumped into me, apologized in a language I didn't quite recognize, and hurried away. I thought nothing of it then, just another face in a long line of people I'd encounter. But then I saw her again, decades later, in a different city, wearing clothes that didn't match the time. Her hair was cut short, bobbed like a style I'd seen in a much later century. She noticed me staring and gave a fleeting, almost knowing smile before slipping into the crowd. After that, our encounters became more frequent. A shipwreck off the coast of Spain in 1715, where she saved me from drowning and then vanished as soon as I reached the shore. A brief glimpse in London during the 1800s, wearing an outfit that looked far too modern for the period. And once during the war in 1916, when I was nursing a bullet wound in a field hospital. She was there, disguised as a nurse, and whispered, "Stay alive, Arthur. I'll find you again." But when she found me in 2024, something was different. I was sitting in a quiet cafe, staring at the rain falling against the windows, when she slid into the seat across from me. Her expression was serious, almost grim. Her clothes were ragged, eyes red-rimmed, and her hands trembled as she placed a worn device on the table. It looked like an old pocket watch, but the markings on it shifted and changed as I watched. "I'm in trouble," she said, voice barely a whisper, "and you're the only one who might remember." "Remember what?" I asked, leaning closer. She glanced around the room nervously. "It's the timeline. It's breaking apart, and it's affecting you too," I scoffed. "I'm immortal. The flow of time doesn't touch me." "Not like this," she replied, shaking her head. "Whoever's behind it, they've started pulling on threads, unraveling things. Events are shifting, places you and I met. Those moments are being rewritten or erased entirely." Her words hung in the air, sinking into me like ice. It wasn't just paranoia. I felt a faint sensation, like déjà vu, an unease that had settled in recently, but I hadn't been able to place. "So what do we do?" I asked. She slid the strange device towards me. "You have to anchor us. You're a fixed point, a constant in the chaos. You're outside of time's flow, and that's what we need to stabilize things." I picked up the device, feeling its weight. It felt impossibly old and yet familiar, like something I had forgotten long ago. The markings seemed to align with something in my mind, resonating with memories that should have been impossible. "How does it work?" I asked. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice breaking. "It's not supposed to exist. I found it in a version of 1847 that shouldn't have happened. It might be a paradox or something worse." The air around us shifted, a distortion in the light, and suddenly the room grew colder. People's movements seemed to slow, like a film reel stuttering. She grabbed my hand, her grip fierce. "You need to use it now, Arthur, before we get pulled apart." I hesitated, glancing at the device, and then at her. For the first time in centuries, I felt a genuine fear. Not of death, but of losing something that had come to mean so much without me realizing. "What happens if I can't fix it?" I asked. She met my gaze, her eyes desperate and filled with a pain that spanned ages. "Then I disappear from the timeline, and you'll forget I was ever here." I took a breath, twisted the device's dial, and felt time collapse around us. The cafe dissolved, reality bending and folding, moments flashing by like pages torn from a book. For an instant, we were in all the places we had met: Rome, Paris, Shanghai, each overlapping like shattered glass. And then there was darkness. When the world snapped back, I was standing alone in the rain. The cafe was gone, the city was quiet, and the streets were empty. I looked down at the device in my hand. It was broken, its markings faded away. I searched for her everywhere, but no one remembered the girl who didn't belong to any era. Not a single trace of her remained, but I remembered. Somehow, against all odds, I still remembered her. I'm immortal, and she was a time traveler. Our paths had overlapped more times than I could count, But now they wouldn't anymore. This time I had lost her for good, or at least that's what the universe would have me believe. But I had all the time in the world to prove it wrong.
A new delivery service called Wishful Courier emerges, promising to deliver exactly what you need, when you need it, even if you didn't know you wanted it. Users don't place specific orders. Instead, they describe a general mood or situation, and the service supposedly uses an advanced algorithm to select and deliver the perfect item. I was skeptical when I first heard about Wishful Courier, a delivery service that claims to send you exactly what you need, when you need it, without you even placing an order. It sounded gimmicky, but when a friend swore by it, saying it had changed her life, I figured, why not? I downloaded the app, set up an account, and entered the only requirement: describe your current situation or mood. The first time I tried it, I kept it simple. I typed, feeling drained after a long day. Within 30 minutes, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find a neatly wrapped package on my doorstep. Inside was an artisanal coffee blend and a small journal with the words, "You've survived every bad day so far," printed on the cover. It was eerily spot on, but hey, maybe it was just a lucky guess. Over the next few weeks, I used Wishful Courier more frequently. Whenever I was feeling down, anxious, or even bored, I'd open the app and type out whatever I was dealing with. The deliveries kept getting more personal, as if the service knew me better with each use. A rainy afternoon brought a cozy blanket and a classic novel I'd always meant to read. A stressful workday ended with a bottle of my favorite craft beer and a little stress ball shaped like a cactus. It wasn't until the bracelet arrived that things started to get weird. I had typed, "feeling nostalgic today," not thinking much of it. But when I opened the package, I froze. It was a silver bracelet with a tiny engraved heart, almost identical to the one my mother used to wear before she passed away. I'd lost the original years ago, and I never mentioned it to anyone. Not online, not even to my closest friends. There was no way Wishful Courier could have known about it. It was just a coincidence. It had to be, right? Then there was the delivery that made me question everything. I was getting ready for bed when the notification popped up. "Your Wishful Courier package has arrived." I hadn't even used the app that day. I went to the door and found a small brown box waiting for me. Inside was a flashlight and a thick, sturdy rope. I stared at the contents, puzzled. This one didn't make any sense. I hadn't typed anything about needing a flashlight or a rope. About an hour later, the power went out. I'm not talking about a flicker or a brief outage. It was a total blackout. I live alone on the outskirts of town, where it's pitch black at night without streetlights. The kind of darkness where you can't see your own hand in front of your face. I grabbed the flashlight from the box, thankful for the convenience, and started making my way through the house. Just as I was checking the breaker, I heard a loud thud coming from the back door. My heart leapt into my throat. I wasn't expecting anyone, and there was no reason for anyone to be out there at this hour. I hurried back to the living room, aiming the flashlight at the door. There, on the ground, was a shadowy figure trying to force it open. I panicked and backed away, but as I did, I stumbled over something on the floor: the rope. Without thinking, I grabbed it and tied the door handle to a heavy piece of furniture, creating a makeshift barricade. I dialed 911, my hands trembling, and by the time the police arrived, the intruder was gone. They said the lock had been tampered with, but nothing else seemed out of place. That night, I deleted the app. Or at least, I tried to. No matter what I did, it wouldn't uninstall. I even did a factory reset on my phone. But somehow, Wishful Courier kept reappearing. New notifications continued to arrive, offering deliveries I hadn't requested. One was a cracked mirror, which I found unsettling enough, but the next one was downright terrifying. A photo of me, taken from outside my living room window. The police investigated, but they found no signs of anyone watching me. No footprints outside the window, no evidence on my phone. Nothing. I started receiving emails from the service inviting me to join the Wish Keepers, an exclusive club for loyal customers. They promised luxury services, VIP access to events, even customized life enhancements. Whatever that means. I ignored them all, but the notifications continued. I couldn't sleep. I kept wondering if the service was still watching me, sending packages based on what they expected me to need. It didn't feel magical anymore. It felt like manipulation. I started questioning every package, every coincidence. Were they really helping me? Or was I just a pawn in some kind of twisted experiment? The final package arrived last night. It was a small velvet box with a note inside. For your protection. I opened it and found a sleek black knife, polished to a mirror finish. My hand shook as I held it, the weight of it heavy in my palm. And that's when I saw it, my reflection in the blade, and just behind me, the faint outline of a figure lurking in the dark corner of my living room.